What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pro Polishers Academy, where we help paint correctors like you turn your systems into consistency by moving you through the learning curves faster, utilizing formulas that work without fail. I'm Smitty, and I'll be your lead instructor. Let's get into it. So in today's tech session call, we went over the one-step paint correction and how it's supposed to be used in your business for efficiency, and how some of us are using it improperly and slowing down our pace while we're working. Check out the call right here. Today is the second tech session call. I'm excited about these because we're going into, the bare bones essentials of paint correction and time saving, etc. So today we're gonna break down. I'm glad we had that conversation yesterday about the different ideas or the different pricing models and guidelines that everybody's following for their own businesses, and it's awesome to have your own mindset. In the world of detailing, everybody tries to push their design to every other detailer, so let's see, one second. So every detailer is always trying to push their ideology on the next detailer, just because they think their way is the way, right? They figured out one thing for themselves, and they think that's the end all be all. And that's not how it works. And as we've seen here in the academy, we've got guys all over the place. And your geography definitely plays a part in what's going on in your business. So if you're in a bunch of snow, you can't necessarily operate how the guy in sunny Florida is operating, etc. So, there's a lot that plays into it. So the one-step paint correction is something that everybody, or the one-step polish is something that everybody has in their arsenal, in their list of services for a customer, and it's all about efficiency. It's supposed to be about efficiency, but most don't know how to accomplish that variable of efficiency and speed. So speed and efficiency. Most people don't know how to really conquer those two variables to be able to make the one step make sense. So typically we're focused in on the price tag that we're charging somebody, and we allow that to dictate the type of work that we're going to do. But oftentimes it's really just it should be based on the type of paint that you're working on. It should be based on the type of client that you have. There are a lot of variables that go into it. And I have found that over the last few years, man, a one step is really only for a vehicle that has no swirls in it, because it's all about speed. If we're going to be focused in on getting defects out of that vehicle, I'm just going to break out something that's got a little bit more cut to it, and have my pad, my polishing pad, and my polish right next to it, or do a hybrid step where I'm using the product to cut and then also to polish with as well. But you got to be ready for these things when you're doing this work. So the tools required for the job, and whenever you're doing a one step, you should really only have a DA out, period. There shouldn't be any rotary out. There shouldn't be any sandpaper out for a one step. You should only have a DA out. And then if you've been in the game for a little bit, at least two. You got your 2-inch/3 inch. What's going on, TP? What's going on, Harvey? You've got your 2-inch and your 3-inch, and then you've got your 5-inch and your 6-inch. You don't necessarily need a 1-inch out unless you're doing something that's got a lot of curves on it. But really, if it's got a lot of curves, I'm not doing a one step. Like on a C7 Corvette, for example, that has a lot of little 1-inch body lines. I'm not really interested in doing a one step on a vet. I just want to get it as right as possible if it's got a little bit more going on with the paint. If that paint is flawless, cool. But those 1-inch, 2-inch spots that would need to be polished out, we should be able to accomplish that polish with a 2-inch and a 3-inch pad. We shouldn't have to break out a 1-inch to do that type of work. So yeah, you should only have DAs out when you're doing this work. When it comes to your polishes and your products, if you've got to use a compound, use a polishing compound. And then if you're going to use a compound, it's got to be one that's really good at leaving minimal haze. If you're going to be leaving haze all over the place, you're not doing a one step. And if you are just one stepping it, then you are working not necessarily unethically unless you know what you're doing. You know, most guys don't know that they are leaving haze like crazy in the paint. So you should have a compounding polish or something like Car Pro Essence. Car Pro Essence is off the chain if you know how to use it right, because it's got the SiO2 built into it. So it's actually filling and cutting at the same time. And I didn't believe in this product until I put it on a vehicle one day, and the guy who was working with me actually left some swirls in the paint, but that product had cured for about 8 hours by the time I saw the swirls, and I couldn't get that stuff off really to save my life. And you know, in the time frame that I needed to get it off in, I was like, okay, this is legit. But unless you're using a compounded polish or something like Car Pro Essence, it's too aggressive, and you're gonna create a haze that's really gonna require you to come back in and polish it again. Then you're doing a two-step. So, you know, but with that hybrid polish, or that I call it the 1.5 step, we're using a polish with a cutting pad, and then we're gonna leave that same product on the paint, switch the pad out, maybe put a little bit more product on the new pad and polish it out and keep it moving. Like, that's one of my favorite methods. And a lot of times it's the one step is very mental. When you tell yourself, oh man, I can one step it, you know, you're happy. The job's going to be done quickly. You can see the end of the day, you know, with a smile on your face. But as soon as you tell yourself typically that you got to do two steps or more, it's like, call home, tell them they won't see me until next week, you know. But really, the two-step is the faster way. You might have a little bit of dusting to clean up, but outside of that, the two-step is faster, gets better results, a lot more depth and clarity, and you can essentially move a lot quicker doing that. But I love doing the 1.5 if we have the opportunity to do it. So right now we've got the GMC, the Burgundy GMC. If you saw it, that we posted, we're working on that right now. And it's got very minimal swirling going on. But at the same time, we know GM paint can be a little bit tough. So if it's got a nice even swirl all around the paint, but it's not that deep, it's like, why isn't it a little bit deeper than it is? It could be because that the paint is a little bit harder than we expect. So we tested out before we got going. I was going to post the pictures here, but I didn't. But we tested it out before we got on the call, just to see what was going to happen with this one step. We used Griot's Perfecting Cream and a Rupes Yellow foam pad to polish it, and it came out pretty well. But typically, with a paint that's going to be a harder paint, you're going to have to either hit it 3 or 4 times with a foam pad, or you're going to have to just go ahead and compound it. And the more efficient way is going to be to simply compound it. Number one, you can cut it out as fast as possible. Number two, you're saving the pad. Before you even get the pad worked up, the defects are gone. So for that person who's like, man, I'm just going to one step this thing, I'm just going to one step it. By the time you finish one stepping it, if you're working with multiple pads, the average person doing a one step is going to be using 1 or 2 pads. So by the time you finish that one step, that one pad or those 2 pads are so pancaked they need to go in the trash, as opposed to two-stepping it. You can just cut it out, no problem. Before you even heat that pad up, you're controlling the temps, and you're doing a cold correction, and you're moving on, and you break out your polishing pad, your foam pad, and you finish the job. It's that easy. So it's really mental, because if you can just tell yourself, hey, it's faster to do a two-step as long as I stay on beat, as long as I keep a rhythm and don't take breaks in between, and I polish as I go. If you compound the whole thing and then you come back around and polish it, you add more time. Compound it, polish it panel by panel, and you will get that job done a lot faster. You definitely you got to know, like I said, with the truck we got outside, harder paint typically, but you have to know the paints that you're working on if you're going to be talking about one-stepping. A lot of guys just want to focus on having that entry-level package for a customer that's great on their pocket, and then it's great on the detailer because they don't have to spend so much time doing the work. But that's not always the case. If you have, it really works on a medium paint. If you've got a soft paint, then you could end up hazing it up to the point where you have to come back in with another finishing polish, and then you're doing a two-step with just, 2 different foam pads. Or if it's too hard, like I said, you can't get all the defects out of there. Now, if you're the person who says we're going after 50% swirl removal, then that's a whole different story. But the way that we operate, can't put that car out there. Depending on the vehicle that we're working on, I can't let it leave the shop with swirls in it, because there can be consequences. There could be, people looking at the vehicle. I'm kind of getting ahead of my notes here, but there could be other people looking at the vehicle who don't know the agreement that you have with the client, and they're dogging your work out. Or you might have lost the client based on the results that they saw. So it really depends. There are a lot of variables that make that one step contingent here in the way that we operate. So yeah, so every detailer, starts off enhancing and one-stepping, clearly because that's the ground level in paint correction. But we typically have no idea what a paint gauge is or how it works when we get started. We're afraid to damage anything, and we're reading forums and watching YouTube as we work for step-by-step instructions. So it's okay to apply that methodology in the beginning. But if you want to be known as an artist, then it comes down to you being a master in your area and what you do. You got to protect your brand reputation. Like this, it's literally your brand reputation. The work speaks for itself. So if you can't be there to fight for you, let the work be there. Like, vicariously through you is the vehicle you worked on. So like I said, I can't let it leave out of the building with swirls in it unless, number one, they're masked by the color of the vehicle. Like that color has to be so bright, like a white or silver or something like that. Maybe the customer is really just looking for some protection. Okay, I'll do that 50% correction. But it's got to be masked by the color of the vehicle. It's got to be the client's daily driver that is not an eye catcher. It's got to be like a little a special to them type vehicle, something that's, that makes them happy, but not the whole world. There can't be a Grand National out here that we touch, for example, that's got swirls in it. It just can't happen because those eyes are going to see it. Or the client has to have already seen what we can really do. So we just got finished up with the Jeep over the weekend. That's the third, maybe fourth vehicle that we've done for that client. And the other vehicles were, well, the previous one was the same polishing package or something quick. But the vehicles before that were actual paint correction, like actually going in and getting this thing squared away. So if that client's already seen what we can really do, if somebody were to call that vehicle out that has a swirl in it, say the Jeep from Saturday, it had a swirl in it, and I had to fight not to mess with it when I saw it underneath the light. But because I got to take into accountability what's going on with our business. We need to leave at a certain time. The client needs to leave. So the swirls really have no bearing here. We already know what the customer's looking for. He actually came in for a $250 detail, but his wife told him, let's just do this, So that has nothing to do with swirl removal. So I got to keep that in my mind as I'm rocking and rolling. But he can still, if somebody were to call those swirls out, oh, Smitty already did the Challenger for me and the Jeep and whatever else, I own. And then the other thing is the vehicle, if we're going to do that one step and it's got some swirls in it, that vehicle's got to be moving out of town when we finish. A lot of these guys in the military, they want to get their vehicle. We actually have one right now. Yeah, the red truck. He's getting ready to move to, he's going to Colorado Springs, right, in a couple weeks. So he wanted to get it coated before he left. Now we're going to get that one squared away because he wants it tight. But if somebody's like, hey, I just want to get some protection on there, I'm not worried about the swirls. If you're going to Colorado Springs, okay, I'll do it for you because nobody around there may know who we are yet, so it's not going to have any impact on our name. But if it's going to be in town, I cannot do it. Some vehicles should not be allowed to get an enhancement by your business. So you're in control of what you're working on in your shop. So if people choose to go to McDonald's, they're getting a Big Mac, they're not getting a Whopper. That's just the rule. So people have to abide by your rules. Yes, the customer can be right, but that whole customer is always right situation is not real, and it definitely is not real here. And we've seen a lot of people leave because they wanted to run the show, and right off the bat, when we have our first conversation, it's like they see you're not going to control what we do here. It's not that bad. It's only got a few. It's like, no, man, that actually has been painted there. I call out a couple things just to let them know that we know what we're talking about, and that's why you came here, and then we never see them again. But I'm okay with that because we're protecting the brand image. So if you're chasing a dollar, you will take that vehicle in, compromise on what it is that you stand for and what you want your work to look like in your portfolio. You collect the money spent by the end of next week, and now that car with the swirls is out there on the road for the next year or two, and it's not a good representation of the business. So some vehicles have to be done the right way. If you want to listen to the rest of that call, join us in the Pro Polishers Academy. It's only $99 a month. You get access to our course, our call archive, and you can be in on our live calls on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We have an awesome community in Discord that's here to help you understand how to master the art, master the pricing, even communicate with your clients, marketing, you name it. We're here to help you grow and expand your business. And like I said in the intro, get you around those learning curves faster through formulas that work without fail. Hey, hit the link below. We'll see you next time, guys. The paint is waiting on you. Peace.